Do you know that feeling where you ask your child to do something like brush their teeth only to be completely ignored? Like you never said anything. It's so frustrating, and it's also a very US American trait. Welcome to Worldly Families. I'm Justine Janae. Traveling to over 40 countries and living abroad has shown me that the mainstream American way of doing things is not always the best. I'm all about showing you new ways of being and doing so you can live and parent more intentionally and more joyfully. In this video, I'll be diving into what we can learn from other cultures about how to raise responsive, respectful, kind children. It's popular in US American culture today to value individualism and authentic self-expression over respect. Manners are seen as something that's a little too conservative in a lot of circles, a little bit too restrictive, and not part of this modern parenting paradigm of let the child choose. Well, the problem with that is a lot of times behavior and values come in line with the actions that we're already taking. So in Japan and France and many cultures all over the world, manners are a super important thing to instill in children. If you've read Bringing Up Bebe by Pamela Druckerman, you know this about French culture. Saying hello, goodbye, please, and thank you is just drilled into, ingrained in kids. My husband and I have talked about this very thing with apologies because he doesn't believe in forcing an apology or making the child apologize when they're really not feeling it or they don't mean it. While I understand that line of thinking, it applies more to adults who already have internalized what it means to apologize, the importance of it, the social respect that it's displaying. Kids haven't necessarily internalized that yet. They haven't learned it. By going through the motion of apologizing, they learn what kind of response that gets. If you don't ever have them go through that motion, they won't learn the importance of the reaction that the other person has to it. We don't want to give our kids the impression that we care more about their happiness than about kindness. When children are allowed to behave however they want, they often flail around looking for something to ground them. Being consistently generous, compassionate, and giving is what ultimately creates happy humans. Tip 2, volunteer. Children learn what they live. Babies are inherently born kind. They're compassionate, they're empathetic. They cry when they hear another baby crying. They don't even know why. It's so cute to watch. In a study at the University of British Columbia, toddlers were actually happier when they gave a treat to another than when they received a treat themselves. And they were even happier when giving that treat came at a cost to themselves. But as they get older, we need to make sure that our kids are still behaving in a way that's in line with that empathy. Otherwise, they will unlearn it. As our kids grow older, cross-cultural research shows that the attitudes that they adopt about kindness, generosity, and helping others are very culturally sensitive. Kids learn what they live. In families that donate their time, the kids are going to understand that it's important to be generous, to be of service, and to help others. In families that donate their money, they're going to learn that it's important to donate your assets to help others. So whatever is most important to you and your family, model that for your kids. Maybe it's both. Tip 3, require responsiveness. US American kids all too often get away with completely ignoring when they're being spoken to. It's infuriating. It still happens in our family. In Japan, parents drill that responsiveness into their children because it's so vitally important for their social well-being. In the US, teaching kids to assertively state their own needs tends to be the goal, while in Japan, anticipating the needs of others before they're even spoken aloud is the pinnacle of politeness. Not only that, but it's a sign of a socially skilled person. Sometimes kids ignore when they're being spoken to just because they're actually socially awkward and they don't know what to say. So giving them these phrases from the etiquette of your culture may seem like it's somewhat rote, but actually it gives the kids a script to feel comfortable to know what to say. Thank you for having me. Tip 4. Cultivate relationships. In many other cultures around the world, it is still very customary for people to just drop in on each other spontaneously on the weekends and just spend hours together having quality time, building their relationship. The building of these relationships fosters kindness and compassion, and it gives children a chance to practice their socializing and their manners. It also gives children a chance to watch the parents modeling this social behavior, so they get to learn the script of their culture. In the US, kids and families tend to be so overscheduled that that's considered rude. If somebody were to just randomly drop in on us, we'd be like, what are you doing here? Tip 5, set expectations. It's important to set expectations of your children's behavior before you even arrive into a new situation with social dynamics. For example, if you're going to a restaurant with another adult couple, you may say, okay kids, I expect you to sit at the table patiently, quietly. I expect you to respond when somebody asks you a question. I expect you to take interest in what they have to say. And I expect you not to bang on the table or drop anything on the floor. Whatever it is that you may expect of your kids, let them know ahead of time as you're driving to the location or as it's approaching, and they'll feel a lot more comfortable going in just knowing, okay, this is how I'm expected to behave. Then they have that framework. It's like the bumpers in the bowling lane where as they go a little off course, you just nudge them with a little reminder, discreet reminder, and it gets them kind of back on track with what you've already set as the expectation for this interaction. There are definitely also positives to US American culture. It is good for kids to be assertive and to be in tune with their own needs. It's just that the pendulum has swung too far in most families, and we need to course correct a little bit by layering in the manners and the social etiquette that will really build that muscle of kindness and compassion in our kids. One thing I am grateful for in terms of US American culture and teaching kindness and compassion is that we really do value inclusiveness in our country. Even if we don't do it perfectly, even if we still accidentally say microaggressions and things like that, we do value having our children include others. And that's something that other cultures can learn from. There are a lot of cultures around the world where they think of racism as an American problem. They don't see that it's happening right under their nose as well. Things are shifting toward diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and belonging in the workplace. People are hiring like crazy for these positions. People are reading the books, White Fragility, White Supremacy and Me. People are learning and absorbing, how do I be better? How can I be a more inclusive, more anti-racist person? And modeling that behavior is so important for our kids. So keep doing the work, parents. Keep asking the questions. Keep apologizing when you mess up. And your kids will learn that that is a vitally important part of being part of the social fabric of our country and of the world. If you're liking what you hear and you're learning something, please subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time I release a new video.